Hello.
Hi, we're live. We're late,
Probably.
but probably live, but
I don't
definitely
know.
late.
I've got to the point where I don't even check anymore. I do have to hit the stupid button in YouTube, but allegedly
Yeah.
we're live. So hello.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody.
Yeah, we're today we're gonna to get through the so we did 2026 predictions at the top of the year. I think it was like January 2nd. And we're gonna do a mid-year recap this year on I think all of the predictions. Let's kind of check in, see where we're at.
Yeah.
I think before we jump into that, we were talking a little bit right before we went live about Fable's back.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It
Breaking
was,
news.
well, we did the cast for Fable like the day it came out, and
And
or
then
it was not
later
for
that
the day
evening,
or
it
something.
was
Yeah, exactly. And we joked
yeah,
in chat like it was because we were talking about it and hyping it up that it was pulled, but it is
yeah,
back. So
yeah.
I
So
think
for folks not paying attention, Fable is a Mythos class model from Anthropic. Was released a couple weeks ago, and then within a few hours, basically, it was pulled by access because of the government. U.S. government didn't want it exporting. It came back up, I think, sometime yesterday afternoon, evening, my time. Um, but it's different now. And I think it's good to just kind of highlight how stuff kind of changed, and the narrative is still like, it's the end of the internet. It's going to change everything. And like, one, still not true. It's good. It's better. It's better than Opus 4.8 and most stuff. It gets way chattier and asks a lot more questions that I'm like comfortable with sometimes, though, because I'm like, I just want you to do this thing. I want you to
no
make
question.
assumptions. Yeah, well, but it's like, so when I build
Yeah.
with AI, a lot of times I'll either give it a very structured idea, like more like a product document, and sometimes I'm just kind of like, let's just see what happens. And Opus
Mm.
doesn't like to do that. It likes to ask a bunch of questions, or sorry, Fable doesn't like to do that. Whereas Opus will just kind of like build a bunch of shit and be like, here's some, assumptions I made. I'm like, okay, let's try it. Um,
It's interesting. Random thought
yeah,
is I wonder if they sort of built in this precautionary thing where like one of the things with LMs, it's really hard to gauge intention.
yeah,
So one of the elements of the Fable release was if your intent was to do anything with security or biology, it would sort of gate you, right?
yeah.
Maybe as a precautionary measure, they wanted to ask a lot of questions to make sure they got your intent
Yeah.
right, so they knew when to gate you and when not to
So
gate
when
you.
yeah. Well, and that's a good point, right? So the new version of the release has changed a little bit, and there's been a few changes. The ones that kind of talk, I didn't actually prep to talk about this, so like probably should have. From the top of my mind, from reading the announcement, it's out there. You can Google it. It's on Anthropic's website. You can only use Fable for 50% of your
Right? Yeah, yeah.
account,
Your
your
weekly,
Claude
your use,
coding
your
account.
weekly usage or something. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
As far as I know, there's no restrictions on API. I haven't hit any, so I think you just burn as much money as you want. So that's different. It used to just be that it was a limited preview for a couple weeks or something.
Mm,
The classifier is very different now, so it's much more conservative, which means what you're asking it to do, it'll try to figure out your intent and classify it. And if you hit the things that they've decided that model should do, it'll bump
yeah,
you down to 4.8 to Opus. And so a lot of folks have kind of made the observation that you're paying for this higher end model, but it's going to probably dump
doesn't
you
do the
down
things that
to the lower model to do the work. Um, so you're still kind of paying for that, though. It seems like it's not really clear to me like how that actually happens. Like if I'm,
yeah.
in the what is it? It's like 10 by $50, I think, is the Fable, and I think Opus is I think it's like 10 by 28 or 20 by 30. I don't know, quote me on the numbers. But my understanding then is that all the tokens that you burn with Opus trying to figure out if it should do something, that the tokenizer, the classifiers, you're paying for that at the more premium price. Maybe not, but that's what it looks like to me, and that sucks.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, and it doesn't code at all now. Apparently, it's only using Opus 4.8 for coding. So I guess theoretically, if you're using it for coding, it's doing a plan, and that's
Yeah.
Fable, and then you get dumped to Opus for any kind of coding tasks. It's not clear to me that the code reviews that it's doing or the hypothesizing of what to do next is either Fable or Opus. I've used both
Ah,
for like, here's a rant. I'm like, I know you're not supposed to do coding or whatever, but I'm like, I want this feature. Let's plan it out. And I don't know if that's Opus or Fable. It seems like it's Fable because it's asking me a lot more questions,
yeah.
but it's not clear to me that if it's like reasoning and doing all this stuff on the back end and then any kind of code analysis is going through Opus.
The rope is. Oh, interesting.
And this is just like continuation of my rant on like, oh, the company that's just begging for fucking transparency is like the most opaque fucking thing on the planet, and it's really pissing me off that
Sure.
people are like falling for this again. There's some other stuff in there too. I think that was like the highlights for me. It was just like they've kind of neutered it more, um, and trying to like make you think that it's better still. Like the
Yeah.
thing that was
Yeah.
supposed to be way better, and like they have a graph of like how they did the tokenizer changes, and I'm like, we clearly made this more conservative and less good.
For probably a few different reasons, right? I think one of the key takeaways from the whole ordeal was a sort of, I don't know whether you want to call it a power struggle or some uncertain sort of delegation of capability, right? So even OpenAI was kind of thrown
Yeah,
into the mix with their next model release, having to run it by the government to make sure that it was okay to release, right? So
yeah,
that was something that was more eye opening for me in that whole ordeal.
yeah.
So
And
we'll see
I
where it
guess it
goes.
was the claims of jailbreaking, and like for jailbreaking, uh, when you jailbreak something, you're bypassing logical safeguards for what something can do. And in AI's context, this would be like making biological weapons or something. It's like not supposed to do
Mm.
that. It probably knows how. It will refuse to do that. A jailbreak would be getting the model to presumably do it.
Removing the guardrails. Yeah, right.
But they were really cagey on what that even was. Like I was reading a lot of stuff that was second or third hand, and you know, I don't honestly know how real this stuff is. Like the government absolutely did put a prohibition on it. That's real, but it's not clear to me if the capabilities are so far beyond. You know, we keep hearing about how Mythos is so far. I don't have access. I'll state that for the record. It's so far beyond anything. I'm like, I don't
I do
believe
not
it.
either.
And people that I've talked to that have access to it, they're like, yeah, it's really good, but it's like it's not, you know, internet ending all
Mm,
code. So I don't know how
mhm.
much of this is like policymakers not knowing what the fuck they're doing and freaking out that this is like world
Some of it,
ending.
sure.
Yeah, or how much of it's actually real. I think not giving the claims are that it's world ending, it's going to hack all the code and all this stuff, and so not giving like the US government access to that is fucking crazy if that's
Mm.
true, right? Like we want the best technology. It'd be like, you know, inventing some kind of a new tank and then selling it to everybody other than the government first, right? It's like you don't do that. So I don't know how much of it's that either. I just know that it's very untransparent and very opaque, and it's getting more and more so. And now everybody's begging for regulation. Sam Altman had an article in the FT about wanting to have a US led AI safety fucking thing. And I'm not against AI safety. I am against any of these people being in the room to decide how AI should
Yeah,
or should
you need
not
the
function.
independent, right, right, the
Yeah.
independent board of, yeah, yeah, for the,
Yeah, and
right.
like, sure, you need expertise in how AI works, but like the fundamental questions are like, if you're allowing AI to make decisions or take actions on your behalf, who's responsible? It's the person. Spoiler
Mm,
alert. And then to what extent do companies have liability on? And what they're trying to do is vie for liability protections, like common carrier protections that we have for web hosts. I don't know if that's necessarily applicable for this. Like it's a little
mm.
different, right? They're actually manufacturing stuff. I think one of the best arguments I've heard on this is like they've used the entirety of human knowledge to train their models, and now they want to sell the output back to us. I think I'll just let that one sit there, and we can move on.
Yeah, it's a great place to end it. Yes.
Yeah. All right. So 2026 predictions. Great segue.
Yes, at the start of the
Yeah.
year, we did a fun episode, right? I
Yeah.
think we made it clear that we don't think predictions are actually things you should be doing, or we should be doing, but it was a fun thing to do, and we chose what, three
Yeah.
categories:
Yeah. Art,
technology,
science, and tech.
science, and art. Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
think we had like two
That's what the
questions
grade
per.
stands for.
Yeah.
Yep, yeah,
So
yeah.
I pulled the
And we're just
transcript.
gonna do check-in.
Yeah. I
Nice.
pulled the transcript and it won't be 1-to-1 at the end of the year. I think we'll do more of a formal kind of how we did, but I think it'd be fun to kind of go through this. So question one, what was the best or most impactful thing that will happen in 2026? And you said along the lines, I'll paraphrase, but along the lines of
Yes.
increased digitization of physical spaces. So AR, VR, AI stuff.
Yeah, I
Do you
don't think
think
I've
that's
heard
happened?
anything about that. I don't think I've heard anything about that.
I heard Meta has cheaper glasses now that will record you.
Yeah, there was, what was it? Snapchat had also tried to jump in with, the physical. Yeah,
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 they're
that
trying
didn't
to do
happen.
the glasses
Right.
thing more better than yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I'm still TBD on it. I think the AR craze is really starting to die down. The goggles on your face were never real. Like no one wants to
Yeah,
walk
I
around
don't
with a
think
10
that's
pound fucking thing on their head. The AR glasses that are kind of talking to you, or like they'll have the bone induction speakers.
Mhm.
That I think is I think it's still plausible. I think we can. I actually know some people with the Meta Ray-Ban glasses, not to do like promotional stuff. I'm sure there's other ones. That's the only one I'm
Yeah,
aware of
cool.
that's like somewhat real.
Yeah, the only one that's
Um,
kind of out there, yeah.
yeah. Uh, they work. I don't, I mean, it's not for me, but they do work.
Yeah. I mean, I think what I was trying to capture from the idea was because of all of the technology that we're advancing in the digital space, especially with something like AI, is translating a lot of what we have in the physical world for
Yeah.
things for AI to be able to work with, which means digitization. And maybe it's a little bit too early for that because we still haven't quite digitally converted all of our physical assets into digital twins for AI to manipulate. So
Yeah.
I kind of jumped the gun there, but I thought there was going to be a bit more a push on that kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
things have happened at the start of this year that have kind of set other things back. So yeah, I don't think honestly, if I evaluate this now, I really don't think anything will happen by the end of the year. It was
Okay.
more of an optimistic push, but we'll see. We'll
Yeah,
check in at the end of the
I
year.
think we'll see some more experiments, and I think it's going to be super niche. The areas that we're maybe not talking about that probably need to look into a little bit, but like military training, I know is getting to big into VR, so you can do like shooting simulators
Yeah,
without having to
right,
like
right.
accidentally shoot your buddy.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, training simulation, obviously medical has had a robot assisted AR surgery for a while, so like I'm sure that stuff will get going. I think maybe scoping it to like consumer tech or like the world at
Mm,
large, I'm still really skeptical. I don't see it.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
My
we'll see. Yeah,
mine
yours.
was a major company will call
Mm,
bullshit on AI return on investment, and basically around questioning like what the hell are we spending all this money on, and it's going to start fading. I think that's correct. There's been a few different companies that have come out and said we just don't see it. I still think there's a lot of people investing money in the space. I think a lot of tech companies are still trying to play perceived catch up in
mhm.
that they're definitely spending real money on it and they're not really asking a lot of questions, but like the value proposition conversation is becoming louder and louder. Um, so I think that came true. I think it'll be much more true once OpenAI and Anthropic go public,
Go public. Yeah.
and
Well, I
then
mean, I think to this
everyone's
specific.
already got their money, and then all of a sudden it's going to be like, oh gee, where did the money go?
Yeah. I wouldn't say it's an open admission, but I think recently Meta started
Mhm.
to talk about selling their compute, right? So in some way, they are seeding that they
Yeah,
overpurchased on compute, which is in effect, we can all expect
Yeah.
it was meant for AI, right?
Yep.
But now that they're actually reselling their compute, is some of a declaring defeat on over
XAI kind of
purchasing
went away,
compute.
like it got rolled into SpaceX, and
Mm.
I don't know if it's a thing or not.
I mean, that was, I think, maybe a different reason because SpaceX was IPOing and he wanted something
No, I
to.
know,
But
but
in any
like
case,
for a minute, Grok was actually pretty comparable to, was it ChatGPT 4?
there was a time where it was one of the names in
Yeah.
there. It sort of dropped
Yeah,
off a little
and it
bit.
was doing well, and then it just completely seemingly falling by the wayside. I haven't looked recently, but I've not heard anything about it either in terms of news. Um, yeah, I mean, Anthropic and OpenAI are both walking back um, the AGI bullshit. My Amazon, or was it Microsoft or Amazon? One of them just renegotiated their contract with OpenAI to get out of consumption-based pricing to tokens, or from compute-based
Hmm.
pricing to tokens. So yeah, it's starting to happen, folks. Like, and it was anybody, like, this is definitely not an Andrew had a brilliant observation. This is like anybody who's actually paying attention to the facts and the data is like, this isn't real. It never has been. It's a bubble. Everyone always says that about a bubble, but like there was no substantiated reality or data to run this on.
Yeah.
And yes, it's a useful technology, and yes, there's all sorts of value to be had, but the claims were so far overstated that it's like it's almost done. I think I said it in the episode, more damage to AI than just like pushing it out there and like getting the technical people on board first. And because like I think really the only really great use of AI at this point is like coding and engineering work, and like it's a pretty good search engine if you don't necessarily know what you're looking for or know a lot about a
Yep.
thing. It's like Wikipedia on steroids, right? It's like Google search plus Wikipedia all kind of
Mhm.
mashed into one. And then like maybe some of the time it just totally makes shit up.
Yeah.
But it's like Wikipedia, right? It's a great spot to start. Like that, and there's all sorts of false stuff on there too. But it's like you get a
Right.
kind of a feel for things. All right. Question 2 was, will society resolve the issues surrounding energy monopolies?
Was this one of the questions under tech?
That's what AI said.
Apparently so, but I mean, I think, yeah, this one's a quick one, right? We both said no, and
Yeah,
yeah, no, right?
I think we both said no. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't see it. I still don't see it changing. If anything, well,
Well, this was,
actually,
yeah. I mean, this is actually, now that I think about it, is an interesting question because this was
yeah, the data
before
center
some things
boom.
happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, 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 and also the war,
Oh
the
yeah,
war, right? So
the
with
conflict.
all that happening,
Congress never
yeah,
declared
exactly.
war. I
Yeah,
refuse to
I
call
was
it a
gonna say,
war.
like, yeah, what to call it? Yeah, what to call the conflict,
The
but that
preemptive
has caused
strike.
some that's caused some prices on energy related products to go
Yeah.
up on top of the AI stuff. But
Yeah.
if anything, that makes it even less likely that there's going to be any diversification.
Yeah. And I guess the initial thought I had after I said what was monopolies, I think, is the key there. And almost all utilities are regulated monopolies. If you didn't know that, now you do. Um, the the big thing that's changing is that a lot of the okay, so part of a utility monopoly is that they have the exclusive right to generate power at scale. I can't just go start Andrew's Energy Co. and compete with the local utility. It's even all very difficult to get approval, period, to do that, which is why it took
Correct.
solar
Yes.
and wind so long to get off the ground, because it was seen as a competitor. There's reasons for and against that. But the thing that I think is interesting about this is that the data centers and the large tech companies are starting to get carve outs for being able to provide their own generation locally. And so
Yeah.
like
Okay.
if a
I see
data
where you're going
center
with
needs
this.
a
Right.
hundred,
Right.
megawatts of power, like are they able to supply their own via either gas generation or solar or wind, that kind of stuff. It's still not clear if that's going to be a widespread thing. There are some projects that have had that waiver. There are some projects that have that as a requirement. which I think is
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of interesting. I do think like from a general like AI data center energy thing, like one thing I hope that we see by the end of the year is much more firm regulation on like if you're going to build a massive data center that you need to be an energy net producer. And so you
Pauser.
need to
Yep,
bring
yep,
your own
yeah.
capacity, and then you also need to be able to put more back into the grid so that you can kind of help subsidize some of the costs of energy for everyone else instead of the other way. Um,
Yes.
so I think people feel better about that. Like there's still an impact, you know, climatologically and environmentally. There's an environmentally impact everything we do as humans, right? So like I'm not
Yes.
even gonna, I don't even care. It's just like whatever. But but I do kind of hope that we start to go that route because then it's also it becomes a much more community benefit. And then we're not using communities to subsidize, you know, we're not using Andrew's hometown to subsidize the AI data boom because they found cheap power and there's data lines here. So now my electricity goes up 50% or whatever.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I mean, I think that's it's an interesting topic for a cast that we could probably go on for a long time because this is
yeah,
actually something I've explored as well.
maybe
But
we should dive
as
into this. Yeah.
optimistic, yeah,
Yeah.
as
I know,
optimistic as
right?
it would be, I don't know how likely it is either because there's always the min maxers in humans, right? So it's like, well,
Yeah.
if you can squeeze out this money by cheap energy, turning it into compute and making a profit, you're going to be doing that.
Yeah.
But I do like the idea of being an energy producer if you're going to bring something like that. So we'll see what happens at the end of the year. There are projects that
Yeah.
are going on to your point, so
Yeah.
we'll see if they manifest.
So, will media and tech entertainment give us completely new creative concepts instead of endless sequels? I don't think that was an actual question, but it sounds like something we would talk about.
It's a very specific question. I don't know. Let's see. I don't know what I can say. So your stance was there's a challenge to give a mass market something
The
genuinely
end of
new, right?
creativity
Yeah, and
through
yeah.
capitalism was effectively my answer.
Yeah. And then I said it will happen, and I think there have been some interesting bubblings in media and entertainment in general, at least for this past maybe year or so. I don't know if it was before the year, but there have definitely been some surges of like YouTube related, like hitting Hollywood kind of stuff, or YouTube competing
Mm,
against Hollywood, or
okay.
creators that came out of YouTube in against Hollywood. I don't know if that fully counts as anything newly creative, but
Yeah.
that was surprising to me was to see the whole Hollywood monopoly being challenged in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah. I think this is a little bit of a TBD. I don't know completely new, but I think we are starting to see uh less sequels. And I don't know enough. I've just completely left Hollywood at this point. I could care less to spend my time watching
Yeah,
crap.
I'm not caught up either.
Well, and every time I try to do it, I'm like, oh, this actually looks kind of good. And then I'll start watching it. I'm like, this is not at all what the trailer was. And I don't care. Or I don't
Mm,
need to
mm,
like be slow dripped a
mm.
story for like 90 minutes. Like movies used to have plots and they were interesting and you have like side quests and stuff that you would go on in the plots. And now it's just kind of like, well, I think it was Ben Affleck said that it was either Ben Affleck or Matt Damon, or maybe it was both of them. They were talking about how like Netflix and stuff wants you to continuously rebring the plot back because people are on their phone watching this
And they
thing at
forget,
home
yeah, yeah, and
and they
they're not paying
forget.
attention to like what's going on.
And
Yeah,
I'm weird when I watch
yeah.
a movie, I'm like actually wanting to watch a movie and I don't have my phone and you know, I kind of movie theater it sort of thing even at home. And I don't know, I can't be bothered. So we'll see. I'm still optimistic that we'll break out of that pattern, but well, I don't know.
Mm.
So the other question, I guess, was anything else to wrap up on the podcast as we've approached 2 years. So I guess we're what 6 months shy of 3 years old. Is there anything that
Wow.
you're kind of looking at that you think we'll be doing differently in the next 6 months, or like how we've changed?
I don't know about differently, but something I would be
Reflection.
interested in seeing, and I know you know this, but
Yeah.
I think people are starting to get um, and maybe this is brought about by all the AI slop that we're all seeing, but this idea of going out and talking to people again.
Yeah.
It would be very fun for us if we can run like an in-person like con. We've talked a little bit about this, but like
Yeah.
a get together for real people to talk about these interesting ideas.
Yeah.
That would be cool. I don't know if 6 months is enough time to try
That
to
ain't
figure
gonna
that out.
happen in 6 months. No, it is something I've been thinking more about too. And the eventification of AI has kind of started to piss me off a lot because there's a lot of
Mm,
we've talked about this a little bit, like as an AI practitioner, I don't know if that's what I want to call myself, but like as somebody who actually makes AI products and uses AI very heavily, I'm finding it still very difficult to try to cut the noise out of
mm,
stuff.
yeah.
And it seems with AI, there's just more and more fucking noise everywhere. And the academic conferences or like more academic events are interesting, but not my focus. Like the frontier, like I have to keep on and understand, but
Mm,
I'm still trying to figure out how to meet more people like me or more companies that are trying to do AI in a sane way and not just as a gimmicky hype thing or a, oh my God, we need to implement AI into our
mm,
product. You know, we've kind of sat on the fence or we've done an experiment. Like I think I've said it before. I think now almost conclusively sold on the idea that AI has almost no business in most products and software and like probably not
mm,
consumer products. Like it's a great tool. But if you can't, if your product that you're selling doesn't have deterministic ability, then you're just kind of selling a random number generator at the end of the day, and that's not very valuable. And it's not useful from
right.
from a customer perspective. I go to the app to get the weather, and maybe the weather's a little wrong, but it's usually right or it's close. If I'm just getting a coin flip, that's not valuable to me. And I'm also um, the so that's a very obvious problem. The thing that we start getting into is where you might not be an expert or a domain or be able to quickly understand the weather is
Mhm.
different.
Right.
And now AI is just lying to you, or it's making it even more challenging to do something in a product like customer service and AI. It's like there's really good ways to do that. I've done some of them. There's also really shitty ways to do it. And most people take the shitty way. And now you're saying they're
Yeah.
arguing with a
Unfortunately.
bot, and it's like, oh, have I solved your problem? And I'm like, no, we haven't even gotten to my problem, but you know, I guess we're done now.
Mm,
And so I don't think that gets better anytime soon. The pursuit of trying to make the non-deterministic thing deterministic and useful, I think, is largely a fool's errand.
yeah. Yeah.
Like,
This is early on in LMs too. It was trying. If you want
yeah,
something basic, just write code. Don't use
right.
the
And
LLM.
most problems people are trying to solve at most companies are just traditional software problems. And like, sure, AI, I guess, makes it faster, but then you lose like
Right.
20% accuracy and like compounded
Yeah. Yeah.
over time. Like that gets to be like you get the refeed problem. And I'm not saying you shouldn't have AI in anything. Like I have products that have consumer facing AI stuff, or I'm using AI behind the scenes to produce things for people. That, but I think I just see so much bolt on that, like, if
Mm,
you're not really deep into understanding this stuff, or like you think it's just going to solve all the problems, like just don't. Please stop.
mm.
Like we're talking about an app that was giving me information or insights about stuff, and it just fails miserably. Still fails miserably. You know who you are. All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
All right. Science
yeah,
next.
you take science, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So I think the main question was predictions for 2026. Anything best thing happen in science for 2026? And okay, this is interesting. So I don't think I'm too wrong on this. So I had a more pessimistic outlook. We did see in the end of last year a big dial back on federal funding for science and academia. I
Yeah.
sort of on the recovering end now. It's not quite as strong as it once was.
I would say it's
Um,
stabilizing. right?
It's
Like
getting back. It's better than it was before, or at
yeah,
the end of the last year, right?
when
So,
it was just total
I
chaos with Doge and the cuts, and
right,
that stuff is kind of settled for better or worse, and people are kind of, I think there's a lot of hyperbolic responses, and I
mm,
think the reality is that a lot of stuff really hasn't changed. Like there's
yeah,
less funding. I'm not, and I think there are probably good ideas in there that aren't funded anymore. But I think on general, the first year of this administration was just abject chaos.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that was worse than everything they were trying to do.
mm.
And some people think it was good, right? If you think we're just wasting a bunch of money on science, you're wrong. Like, sorry, you're just wrong. Could we apply the money in science better? Sure. But the just cutting grants out of nowhere and penalizing people who,
Yeah.
because the scientists
Mention
are
certain
making too much
words.
money
Yeah.
or whatever, it's just like it's just such a, and I guess we've both worked in it, so we have probably different
Yeah.
opinions, but like everything, there's always room to improve, and re, you know the waste, fraud, and abuse thing is being abused by the people trying to cut stuff. But there is waste, and of course there is. Like there is no 100% efficient system,
Right.
and we need to try to make the system incentivized to reduce that naturally than just putting arbitrary, caps and cuts. And it's like if you don't spend your full grant, then you get penalized. So maybe we should have changed that rule and been like, if you don't spend 100% of your grant, then you can, send an addendum and try a different project, or like, hey, I learned this thing didn't work the way that we thought it did 20% in, and we've pivoted. Like
Yeah.
science, can go that way and they'll do that, but oftentimes it's so much more work to even change the focus that you're penalized for it. Or we could have just blanketly cut money and called people names, which is what we did.
Yeah, I mean, your point about the incentivization actually made me think about, in a more pessimistic light. Even though things are stabilizing,
Yeah.
uh, because the funding's so small, you sort of have these negative feedback loops of, we may have
Yeah.
talked about before. You know, science that actually gets funding is the stuff that's new, or quote
Yep.
unquote new, right?
Yep.
So
From
you don't quite
established
get.
people.
Right, right, yeah, exactly. So you
Yeah.
have this weird feedback loop of that. So that might cause people to double down if there's a lack of funding out there,
Yep.
or some amount as opposed to like none at all, right? So that's a worrisome concept. But I don't know. We gotta have faith in people, I guess. Gotta have faith in science.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of mistrust in science too, because with any
Yeah.
system or organization, you get people who get power, and then they try to like keep the power for the sake of power, and we're not very good at changing those systems and preventing it without just like blowing it up.
Mm.
Yeah, I know. I would agree with that. I think like uh, I'll be interested to see if foundations pick up more support and
Ah,
private
interesting. Yeah.
sources, or like even companies, because there's been some kind of interesting initiatives that companies are like donating money for stuff.
Mm.
I don't know. I haven't really gotten into it too much, but yeah, I don't know. I
Yeah,
think what did
there
I
is a negative
say?
side of that, of
Yeah.
donating to foundations as a way to get a tax break for a lot of rich companies.
Well, it's that, but
But
then it's also like the what are the motives behind
yeah,
the gift,
right, right,
right?
sure.
And the government is supposed to be there to support all of the people, and people can argue about whether or not that's happening. The
Mm,
reality is you have a say in that. If it's a private company, and at least in America, you don't have a say in what they're doing. You don't have a say in what they're trying to research. You don't have a say in is it making my life better or not? And I think that's the big
mm,
difference between public and private sponsorships. And like, I don't think we should prohibit private entities from doing that,
right, right,
but
of course.
the argument in our politics always seems to be one extreme or the other, and the reality is it's somewhere not there. uh,
Right.
and that the arguments of the extremes should be producing a different result, but the reality is it's just one side or the other kind of wins, and it's winner take all, and that's what really needs to change.
Yeah,
um,
Yeah, we're kind of fighting that right now in the
Exactly.
in US. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, no, and I talked to
right.
still so many people and they're like love or hate Trump or it was love or hate Biden. And I was like, well, they're both doing things that I don't like and they're both doing things that I do like. Like that's how it is. But it's, I think on balance, like, is what they're doing more or less aligned with you? And uh, I will say with this administration, it's really fucking hard to understand what they're trying to do, let alone what they're doing. Right.
Mm,
And
yeah,
that is like fact as far as I can tell. And then you can argue about the balance of what they're doing or not. But it's the conflict in Iran is a great example of we've been told I don't know how many times now it's done. We're in a ceasefire. I was in the woods when we
we
apparently
have deals.
bombed them
Yeah,
again, and I'm like, it's not really a ceasefire if we're bombing them. And then everyone's like, oh no, but it is, and it's like, no, literally, it's not. Like we're not gonna. I'm
by
not playing
definition,
this.
right, right, yeah.
We're gonna rewrite words. It's like, no, we clearly we don't have a ceasefire, and that's fine, right? That's just okay. If we don't have a ceasefire, now what? But we just this
Mm,
continual pretending or lying or whatever you want to say. But this is pervasive everywhere. I think social media has really gotten to it, and like we've never really had like honest and truth in greater society, but we used to pretend or would have glimmers of that, and now it just feels like everybody everywhere is just making shit up constantly because they can, and
mhm,
like there's no accountability. And that's a really dangerous, like, I'm not an idiot, I'm not naive, I understand that there's embellishment everywhere and that you have to, but I do think that the more that that becomes acceptable and, and normalized, the less close we are to reality. And I think that is the number one problem we're seeing is that people in our
mhm.
society are so far divorced from like actual reality that it just gets nuttier and nuttier. And it's only going to get nuttier and nuttier until we return to like normal, like everyday world stuff.
Yeah, and then the question is how does that normalcy return to normalcy happen?
Yeah. Well, there's two
Mm.
options as history presents. Yeah, I mean, my thing for science was, and I think I just kind of gave my diatribe, but I was what did I say? Public mistrust. I think we're still there. I think what I just said kind of is
Mhm.
why
Yeah.
that it's there. um we're still going to make strong advancements, but the public isn't going to know about it. I would say that's true. Like science communication has become more difficult or less common if you're not looking for it. Like I try to watch the the normal people news. That sounds pejorative, but the
That is totally pejorative.
I know. I don't know. I'm not normal. I'm okay saying that, but like my most of my news comes from direct sources or is like focused in stuff I'm interested in or like working on, whereas like the general news is just the general news.
Mhm.
And I
Okay.
try to watch that sometimes just to like understand like what
What's
it's.
state of the world is, yeah.
I'm not going to out the news source, but I call it ADD news because their news broadcast like kind of gives me anxiety because it's just constant stream of thought the whole time. And it's like literally like the anchor, like it's like he's like white knuckling it on the fucking desk the whole time. He just talks. And it's so fascinating for me to watch this because I'm just
Interesting.
is this,
Yeah.
and I guess they're pressed for time or like people can't fucking concentrate. But like it's such a weird because I kind of stopped watching the news and now I'm kind of like, what do people think is going on?
Yeah.
But now I forget my point. Oh, but they almost never talk about science shit. It's always like somebody died, a plane hit a thing.
Ah,
Maybe the dingo did eat
yeah.
the baby, for spoiler
I mean,
alert.
in fairness, I don't know how often science stuff made it to the news in the first place.
No, it did. No, for sure. No, like they would most uh I mean, I haven't watched this for a long time, but like I remember notable advancements and stuff would be talked about, or if there was a big paper on like Alzheimer's research or like heart disease or something, you would like hear about it.
Hmm,
I have even, some of the other news that is less generalized, I'm not seeing. Like I have to really seek this stuff out.
hmm.
And I think it's always hard to science communicate, but it's I
Yeah,
think there's so much
I agree with
other
that.
crap going on that people are just like they can't.
Right. Yeah, I think that's fair as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Too much. Yeah. The news flood, right?
Yeah. Well, it's just information, and it's all AI bullshit now anyways.
Information. Right. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. AI is not going to solve science. That's going to be my
No.
prediction for
No.
the
No.
next 10 years.
Although there was some news about AI being dedicated to science, which would be interesting because there are certainly places for something like the compute power of AI in the scientific domain. But we'll
I'm
have to
not
see what comes out of it.
convinced.
We'll see what happens ultimately, right?
Yeah. I think like specialized models or specialized. Oh, let me take it back. The places where I'm going to use quotes, AI has been used in science pre generative AI hype from the big
Yes.
three
Yeah, that's
is
what I was
still
referring
cooking
to.
and
Yeah.
still going
Mhm.
strong and definitely has a place. I think the idea that we're going to have a large language model from one of the big three companies just take over science is
Right.
insane.
Right.
That's what I mean. Yeah. It's like deep learning and neural nets and adversarial training, all this shit. It's like, yeah, there's all sorts of uses for that in science, and the science people know and they're using it, and they're not. They're desperately trying to not get like wrapped into the craziness of AI because the people doing all the hype are just shooting themselves, and it has not apparent to them yet, apparently, that they've done that, and they're bleeding out, and everyone's like, "You're bleeding
they
out."
don't. Yeah, they don't realize they're bleeding
Right?
yet.
It's massive
Right.
reputational harm, and they've kind of destroyed the field. And anyway, for art, what's the biggest thing that's going to happen to art? You said a shift towards originality and a
Yes.
refusal of AI slop.
I mean, that's the easy answer, I think. But the originality thing, I actually don't think we've quite seen yet.
No.
Although I'm not too plugged in, but the AI saw was an easy answer. I think people
Yeah.
were already starting to see it at the time of the start of this year. Um,
I even
I don't think
agree. I
there's much
think,
else to say.
yeah, I think we're we're seeing groups of people outright reject generative art.
Yeah, right.
Um, and there are groups of people that are like trying to get back to basics or like, I guess, non AI stuff. And so I think that's starting to happen. So I think it's like, I think it's, I don't, it's hard to say if this one is like conclusive or not, but I think you're right on that one. I think we're going to see the split continue. Like there's going to be people who just don't give a shit, and there's going to be people who really, really care. And
Yeah.
both sides of that are okay in my mind, but and I think it'll just kind of continue to operate along those lines, just like every other major technology. Like there is the people who like wouldn't use the cotton gin because they wanted to just pick cotton or have people pick cotton. There was people who wouldn't use tractor plow because they thought horses were better or whatever, or couldn't afford it or
Mm-hmm.
whatever their rationality is. And then it eventually dies out and the new technology takes over. But there's still people who use non-tractor plows for plowing fields, right? Like never really goes away.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's something interesting between like a tool versus I don't even know what you would call it, but like a generative AI.
Art form or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
something, right? Like you can argue that art has there's been a digitization in art, right? People are
Yeah, for
using
sure.
certain digital tools to create things, but no one's really said, "Oh, I don't use any digital tools at all." It's just a different kind of art,
No, I
right?
mean there are people who like don't. But it kind of does remind me of when computer generated stuff was really getting popular or people were experimenting
Mm.
with it. And I remember like people being, adamant that Photoshop wasn't creativity. And it's like, well,
Yeah,
sure it
right.
is.
Yeah, I was.
You're
Mhm.
applying creativity to how you do the filter, the dial. It's like, yeah, you're not doing that actual like work to dodge and burn or whatever. But like, I think the difference though with like generative AI is that it's hard to understand how much of the creativity in the output is you versus just math or like the algorithm or the model.
I mean, I think that's
Right.
the philosophical discussion
Yeah.
to be had, right?
Well, because
For the
with
people
dodge and
who,
burn with like Photoshop, that there's a spectrum of use for that, right? And like how you apply
sure,
that is you, and you're not hitting like a now they have like the auto button that'll do all the leveling and stuff for you. But like you still, it's like you decide that that was good enough or you tweak it. Whereas generative AI, the level of creation that you as an individual have with that is also very low. unless you're using it in like a multi-step process to say, I want to generate some stuff, I'm going to integrate it into other things. But if you're just like, give me
Right.
this crazy photo of the Eiffel Tower with a massive monster on it and, you know, some mosaic style, like, is that really creative? Like, it's an expression of a creative idea that you might have, but I would say it's not really creativity because you're not doing anything to produce it. But then if you take that image and then you start fucking with it and like, you know, modifying it in ways that you want to see it, I think that now becomes a little bit more of a creative process. You're just using the generative tool, but you also don't have control of it. So if you don't have control over it, it's like splatter painting, kind of. In my mind, that's not super
I mean, you
creative,
said that is art for some people. Well,
right?
I mean, I think the interesting thing that you're touching upon here is there is an element of understanding or knowing what the process of creation was, right? So
Yeah,
if you had just seen something and someone had said, "Oh, I created it with generative AI," that's not the same as saying, "Oh, I did these 15 steps and generative AI was used in creating it." Right? So
yeah,
it's like that's where the definition around art and creativity kind of blurs a little bit, but it's the same thing with even like the dodge and burn example. There's a conceptual idea of like, oh, I can make this look better because I have these fundamental understanding of
yeah,
what art looks like. So if I use dodge and burn in this way, it's
yep,
not the same as just applying the magic dodge and burn filter. So there is a
yeah,
sort of like once you know more about the process, you have a better gauge of whether you can call it creative or not. And I think that's
yeah,
the interesting element for me here in this process is,
yeah.
yeah, if you don't know, you don't know.
Yeah. Well, and then, you know, again, I think creativity is, in my mind, and in a lot of folks' mind, is that it's a repeatable thing that you can do. So like if you just splatter paint and then sell it for $1 million because it, you know, it just happened to be good, great. But
It's happened before.
if you can't
Yeah.
reproduce that
Yeah.
success, then you're not
Sure.
being creative, you're just lucky, or it's just, you know,
Mm, mm.
accidental. And you can be accidentally creative, but if you don't understand why the thing that you did was impactful or how to do it or how to push it forward and change it, then you're not also being creative in my mind. You're just, you know, lucky. Hit the
Yeah.
magic
Yeah.
AI generator button and it
Yeah.
spit out
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
kind of cool. That's awesome. Like great. I
You
don't
rolled the natural 20.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and then I would argue that, you know, your taste or your judgment of the product of being cool is like useful and valuable. I don't
Yeah.
know that necessarily creative, but those are also different skills that people possess. Cause like I can hit the magic generator and not have anything remarkable and think it's the world's greatest
Mhm.
thing. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So you, the last question, and it doesn't make sense to me. So this is perfect example of using AI. But I guess maybe
We should go back.
this is like,
I do
I
remember
just,
mentioning this though. Yeah.
yeah, I fed the transcript to AI and was like, you know, break this out into questions and summarize what we said. And it's, I would say like all AI about 80% of the way there. Question 2, can I throw in another one? I don't know, AI, can we? I don't know. I don't remember what the question was, but your prediction that what is it? Anonymous artists will become
For
famous
art.
for
Yeah,
visual
yeah, yeah.
art.
For
Yeah.
art. Yeah, yeah, yeah. To be honest, I don't know if we could bunk this yet. I don't know if it's true or not because we don't know.
I
But
think it's
I was
true. No, no.
predicting that.
Yeah, no, there's
Really?
been music, right? There's been a couple bands and
Yeah,
folks
yeah, yeah.
that
That's right.
yeah.
That's right. Yeah, yeah. What was it? Velvet Sunset or something
Yeah.
ridiculous on Spotify. But yeah, yeah. That's right. I was thinking more of like an artist, like someone who paints or creates digital
Yeah,
art,
like
not
Beeple or
music.
something. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But the idea was that there would be some sort of artist, quote unquote,
Yeah.
that people would think was a real person
Or like
until it was
Banksy, I
later revealed
guess.
to
Yeah.
be.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Until it was revealed
I
that it was an
agree. So
AI.
I'm gonna call this one correct. And I will say that
Nice.
I think like I think what you intended and kind of what you just said was like it'll be not known. Where I think all the AI stuff that has come out as AI, like they didn't try to hide it per se.
Mhm,
It was like, what was
mhm.
that fake woman that we talked about, Tilly something?
Tilly Norwood. Yes, I don't know
Yeah,
why that.
right.
Yeah, I remember
Yeah,
that. Yeah,
everybody
Tilly
knew it
Norwood.
was
Correct.
AI, I guess, or maybe not everyone did, but they weren't trying to pretend like that was a real person.
Yeah.
But to your point, I do think if there is AI generated stuff that, is out there, I don't know if we know that it's been done yet, if someone's
Yeah.
revealed the con, so TBD, but I think you're right. I think there and I definitely think there's going to be.
Yeah. Nice. I got one.
You got a couple.
No, predictions are hard, and I think
Yeah.
that we did this for fun. But you
Yeah, no,
honestly, I think your
exactly.
record was pretty good. Your record was pretty good, to be honest.
I tend to be pretty good on future looking things. Um, well, because it I don't know, most of it is I think it's where I can qualify that. So I think it's if you're in the bleeding edge of enough stuff, you can just kind of you just it
The pattern recognition, you sort of
where
see
you're
things.
going
Yeah.
just feels correct. And
Right.
I'm on the bleeding edge of like AI shit and some other stuff. So it's like, yeah, it's like for me, I'm just like, yeah, this is my normal day. And for most people, they don't get it, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that.
Mm.
But the I think a lot of these also kind of centered around AI stuff.
I mean,
And
2025 was
yeah,
2024, 2025, and this year are
well,
the
yeah,
years of
but like,
AI.
we didn't have like, well, my point is though, is because I'm on the bleeding edge of AI,
Oh,
it
oh, I get
might
it. Oh, I
seem
see what you mean.
easy
Sure.
to be like, wow, he really, I'm sure I know stuff, but it's
Yeah.
it's like the prediction thing. No one can predict the future. But a lot of the observations that I had at the time of how the technology and how it's being applied and the people making shit up, it's pretty kind of easy to see, for me at
Yeah.
least, like where we were kind of headed, like where we're going to be in a year or two. I have no idea. And we also didn't try to predict, I think, like what life would be like. And I think a lot of people get over their skis when they're like, all jobs are going to go away because AI is going to
Ah,
take them,
right,
right?
right.
And it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
well, that's
We're gonna have
bullshit. There's no
floating. We're gonna have
way.
flying cars, and
Yeah,
yeah, right.
right. We were trying to be more, prescriptive and nuanced in different things, which most people don't get into because it's much harder, to understand, or sometimes easier, right? But I don't know. I agree. It was kind of fun to do. We'll do I think the last episode of the year will be the full
Nice.
recap, and we'll do some production around it. I think have scorecard or something. We
Oh
can like,
wow, that's new for
yeah.
us.
I think
Ooh.
we should do that. It'd be fun. So my prediction for the next 6 months of 3.8 is going to be we're going to have an episode about, how right or wrong this stuff was. We think we
Yeah,
should do
that's
another
one way to
one
do it.
for
Is yeah,
2027.
yeah, yeah. It'll be interesting. We'll see what happens in the next 6 months. But honestly, I don't know how much of it would change. Maybe recognizing how wrong I was, that might change what I
Well,
would do for the
I
next year.
think the AR stuff still is like possible. I have a hard
Hmm.
time seeing everybody's life being changed by AR. Like we're 6 months
Yeah, I
from
don't
now,
see
we're all
that either, to
walking
be honest.
around
Right?
in
Yeah,
like
yeah.
goggles or gloves or whatever that is. But I mean, like AirPods, like, oh, here's an idea. So like the new AirPods have a blended mode. Like I think they call it adaptive, that will
Yes.
simultaneously
Right. Right.
limit and amplify certain sounds. And so I wear them all the time when I'm biking, and it does a really good job of blocking out a lot of like the environment noise, so I can actually hear something that I'm listening to. But it's also really, really good at the types of noises that are dangerous, so like a car
Yeah.
or like car doors, and like it's almost like I'm superhuman because I can like hear the car coming much further away than I normally would because the tire
Right.
noise is amplified. So it's actually safer for me than if, I was just normal ear. Don't bike with like
Plug.
earbuds that
Yeah. You.
don't
Yeah.
let
Have
sound through.
hearing.
That's very
Open. Yeah.
dangerous.
Open headphones.
Yeah.
Or yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And even AirPods, maybe it's dangerous. I haven't seen data on it, but like I know for me and like cars and stuff, for sure, like I hear them coming way sooner than if I would without them in that whatever it's called, adaptive listening mode or something. So
Yeah. It is
so that's
adaptive mode.
that's
You're right.
AR though, right? That's augmented reality. Like I'm hearing things. So I guess for
Ah.
people that
Okay. That's
the
fair.
yeah, the AirPods have mics in them and they will noise cancel the environment, but then they'll also amplify sounds. Like I think it's called transparency mode. That makes it easier for you to hear people talking without having to take out. They're just using microphones on the AirPod to amplify speech and let you hear it. So that's augmented reality, I think.
Mhm. You
Uh,
are right.
yeah,
It
it's the
is.
same
Yeah.
way a hearing aid works, right? But you have
Yep.
control over it. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe it'll be interesting. So I don't know if I'm okay saying that you got it,
I'm
but
okay accepting defeat on that.
I'm more in camp. Maybe I think what I learned from this, I think, is I need to think a little bit more deeply about how technology is embedded in our existence. Because I didn't even think about
Interesting.
that before, right? Because I use these things, I mean, live in these things. Not a product
Yeah.
endorsement. I love them, but like it it's totally AR though. I didn't really think because I always think about glasses or like VR
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
like
Yes. Right.
having
Right.
your
Right. Yeah.
phone, be the window to the world
Yeah.
and like visually augmenting, but like audio augmentation isn't something I've thought too much about.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe that's the first step into it. So
Yeah.
we're getting there. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we're losing you, so I don't know. You're fading out of reality. Your stream is starting to
Oh,
get
is that?
yeah. So it's a
Oh,
good
is
time to
that?
stop.
Uh,
Yeah.
I'm here in Puerto Rico. I don't know exactly what's going
I
on
know,
with
right?
my connectivity.
Well, I mean, there's a shit ton of storms out there, so everybody be safe because like the west or east
Hmm.
coast is supposed to bake now this next couple days and rain and thunderstorms and shit. So good luck for the
Yeah, we're
America
recording this on July
250. We didn't know
2nd.
it's
Yeah, yeah, I was gonna
America's
say, yeah, we're
250th
recording this on July
birthday and
2nd. Right, right. So
Friday,
have
right?
a
Or
nice July
Saturday.
4th.
Friday.
Saturday.
Saturday.
Yeah, have a
Yeah.
nice July 4th. Saturday,
Yeah.
Saturday. Yeah,
Yeah. Try to
yeah. Right
enjoy
before
it.
the July 4th weekend here. So
Yeah.
yeah. Go outside and touch grass. I think that's one of the things that we keep saying, right?
And don't blow your hand off.
Enjoy the
That's
outside.
bad.
Yeah, no
Be
firecrackers.
very careful of
No
fireworks.
dangerous firecrackers. Yes.
All right. See you next week.